to the Tony Rodriguez Show on the nextgenusa.com. We are censorless TV, so we can pretty much say whatever we want. Joining us tonight, of course, is Steamboat Willie. Welcome back, Steamboat. Glad to see you. I know we put it off a day, but we had some things to attend to last night. And Mikey Mike from Maryland. Hi, Mike.
What's up?
Hey, how are your Washington Commanders doing?
Well, they're moving the ball now, so we'll have to see. I mean, they played Philly last week, and they only lost by like 3 points. So they're good.
I got a feeling they'll come back from this. The Bears have a habit of not being able to hold the line anyway. So
yeah, they've lost their last 14 games anyways.
In what quarter is it anyway?
It is the second. Just went in the second.
Second quarter. Okay. Yeah, we could. Washington can still recover.
Yeah.
Well,
and I mean that is the football team. I'm not so sure about the Capitals.
I was going to say it's not going to be Washington. That's going to take a lot. Speaking of that, I went to an event last night with the LA County GOP, the San Fernando Valley Republican Committee, and I just want to announce again, in case people don't know, we have a friend now as a vice chair in the LA GOP in the county of LA. So his name is David Hernandez. He's got a radio show on 870 AM, and he's also has the Los Angeles Hispanic Republican group, and now he's the vice chair, which means we have a supporter in there that can help us now.
Good.
That can help people running for office in the Republican Party.
It's about time.
He's on top of everything else, he's a good man. So every decision he'll make for the party is going to be one with common sense, and it's what's best for the people, not just the party, for the people. So I was super happy about that he got elected. So kudos to David. Looking forward to working with you, David. Hopefully we can make a lot of changes in the near future, not just in the party, but.
And you got to you actually got to speak at that event last night, right?
Yes, I did. Yes, I got 3 minutes to speak.
I saw the reel.
It was really. There was a lot of people there, not just candidates. There was a lot of moms, a lot of grandparents were there last night, and of course we had a speaker. Manute Gregorian, who is the founder of Leave Our Kids Alone, which is now a nonprofit organization leading the charge to fight all the schools, not just LA Unified, but they went out to Chino, they went out to Temecula to fight. So they're getting all the groups together. There was groups from the Antelope Valley up in the Palmdale area there, moms supporting their children, and of course the 818 San Fernando Freedom group that was there. So it was a good event. It was a little long, but it was good. We got to speak. We got to hear their concerns and what they're trying to do. And it's the common sense approach. One of them, Manuk made a comment. All we're doing is trying to protect our children. So why have they turned this into this group versus that group, which is the same thing we always talk about.
Right.
That politicians have a habit of turning everything group against group versus what we really want, which is harmony, kind of, right? We want unity. We want people to get along.
A little bit. We don't ask for much, but a little bit would be nice. Yes. Well, agree, Mr. Rodriguez.
And I think if people get over themselves and start thinking about common sense approach to things, we could probably resolve a lot of issues. We probably could. But that's the key, right? I don't know if you saw a post that I put. I think you saw it, Will. I don't know about Mikey, but the one that said that 91% of Californians believe parents should be the ones raising their kids. And
I did.
And I brought that up last night. I'm like,
yes, you did.
I'm not concerned about the 91%. I'm concerned about the 9% that want the government to run their kids' lives.
Right.
What the hell is that 9% thinking?
I don't know. I was lost. And I brought it up last night. Among other things that are very personal to me, why I really want to run. And it's crazy to me that it's not 100% of Californians thinking that parents should control their kids, and not Newsom and his clan up there in Sacramento. So that was kind of
well, because you're thinking you're a common sense candidate. You're a common sense father. You're a common sense grandfather.
Right.
You're a common sense friend, and you're a common sense husband. It's like you said, families first. If your family doesn't come first, what's your priority then?
Exactly. And I kind of did that yesterday when we were speaking about, I know sometimes people get confused on, if my message is correct, why I say families first, how does that resolve everything else? Well, I look at it with a common sense approach. If we make decisions based on the family unit, then everything will be taken care of, right? Whether it's public safety, whether it's the economy, it's just the common sense approach we need to have, and we don't have it, which is crazy to me that we don't. It's
insanity, actually. It's absolute insanity.
And I truly believe this, and Will, that's the thing that you've taught me from the time we met, how government begins in the home. And I think if we start thinking that way, and if we get everybody focused in that direction, we can solve a lot of family issues at home, right? If people are engaged, taking care of each other, and if you're one of those lucky people that get to be a public servant and you get elected, then that should be your mentality. Hey, I'm going to take care of my constituents.
Right.
I'm going to make sure they're informed, right? Those little basic things that don't really happen. And I'll give you an example.
I was watching. Go ahead.
Well, real quick, Laura Friedman, my assembly person, and not that I want to give her media a shout out, but since she's been there, she's never had a town hall meeting. All of a sudden, she's having them because, of course, elections are coming, right? And I think, as an assembly person, as a congressperson, you owe it to constituents to brief them, to have a Zoom meeting. You don't have to come down. Have a Zoom meeting, right? Or a Teams meeting, or send one of your representatives to one of the meetings to find out what's going on in the community and what's important to them.
Well,
exactly.
Well said.
Take your legal pad down there and jot the notes down that people are concerned about.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to say what Tony's talking about real quick, and then I will yield the floor back. No. But today they held the funeral of Senator Dianne Feinstein in San Francisco.
Yes, sir.
And do you know the biggest criticism was that she among ultra liberals, was that she was willing to work across the aisle with Republicans. In fact, she hung out with Republicans half the time, and she was, but she would not vote on a bill. She would not vote on a bill. She would tell her leadership, "Look, I'm going to take the bill home and read it, and tomorrow I'll have some answers for it." And then she would have 60 questions plus on the bill, and she would hold them to the carpet. We're going to miss Dianne Feinstein, believe me.
Well, it's funny you say that, because that's a common sense approach, right? You want to read anything you sign, right? You want to make sure you understand what you're signing. You don't want to sign blindly. I understand everything if you don't. So, and we got to give her credit, because she took over in San Francisco in the 70s when it was strange times, right? Milk had just gotten shot. Right. So she did a lot for San Francisco, and brought it to where it was. Then, Daddy Newsom came in and he ruined it. So, but she did a lot for that city when she took over, because it was pretty hostile in those days.
And yes, and she actually she authored the assault weapons ban, but she carried a handgun because her predecessors got assassinated.
Right.
So she would carry a handgun, but after things calmed down, she had that handgun melted down, had a cross made out of it, and gave it to Pope John Paul II after his assassination attempt in the early 1980s. And she was just an original.
No,
And
she
there are a
wasn't.
lot of Republicans that miss her too.
And I give her props because she did reach across the aisle. And I know both sides of well, the Uniparty doesn't like that unless it lines their pockets. Um, if there's some financial reward for them, then
Yeah,
they
that's a special interest problem.
right.
Yeah,
And we got to get away from all that. We got to stop. Kind of like what happened the other day with Kevin McCarthy, right?
I was hoping you bring that up.
You know, the when your favorite lady, what's her name, Marjorie?
MDG.
Yeah, when she didn't support that, um, and even after the vote, she didn't support it. She wasn't like, Little Miss Muffet, Lauren Bobbitt, who went out after she voted nay. She went publicly and said, "Yeah,
Brother, I know, right?
it's the right thing to do." I give your girl credit because she said, no, it was the wrong thing to do. And everybody's got different opinions why it was the wrong thing to do or the right thing to do. Um, I just don't think that we should have aired out our laundry like that, like we did. That was my concern with it.
Well said.
Um,
Well said.
you keep stuff in the family, right? Whatever arguments you have, and you don't bring it out like we did, us against them, and we have the elite eight that went against the rest of the Republicans, and for whatever reason, whether I like Kevin McCarthy or not, the point to me, it seemed like kind of like what happened when BLM came out, right? And families started fighting each other, and oh, you're racist or you're a bigot because you're a Republican, or you're a bigot because you didn't marry your own kind. You went and got some person from another state or some white person, or that kind of nonsense. That's what it really, to me, that's what it looked like. Very unprofessional what happened.
Yeah. Well, it was terrible leadership, but this was not McCarthy's fault. This was the fault of a fringe extremist group of Republicans.
Yep.
And now they're after Matt Gaetz. And that's the one thing Jim Jordan said today. And he's running for speaker, and so is Scalise. But he said today, I think there's a third one too, but nobody that anybody knows. But Jordan said today, look, we either try to bring, it's like a son or a daughter that you have in your family that they waver, and you try to bring them back into the fold. Right. That's what Jordan's trying to do with Matt Gaetz. Whether Matt Gaetz or not will comply is a whole different issue. I think those eight, and this is just me, and I'm not speaking for Mike Riker, but I would primary every one of those eight in 2024.
Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the people that got up there in they gave good reasons why they want to stick with him, but it was just those small percentage that said, no, we got to get rid of them. And to me, they had the people that were for him had a lot of good reasons why. You try to reach across the aisle on the budget and everything else. I mean, you can't always win everything.
No, you can't. I wish we could, but we can't. And they're talking about Donald Trump being speaker, but Jim Jordan, that's another thing Jim Jordan says. Jim Jordan says, I look forward to meeting with the president next week. But I think the president is here to help. He doesn't want to be speaker. He wants to be president of the United States. And by the way, here's another thing, Mike.
Yep.
And this is just something to think about. Let's assume that they make that decision and Donald Trump is Speaker of the House. Now let's assume that happens. Now let's assume that something happens to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. The Speaker of the House becomes president. The Speaker of the House becomes president. They will accuse him of overthrowing the government. It'll be a whole new conspiracy theory. Let's go with Jim Jordan and keep Donald Trump president of the United States.
So let's talk about Jim Jordan here. If he is the one, which I know he will be, because they're not going to vote for Scalia, even though I think Scalia, is that how you pronounce his name?
Scalise. Uh-huh.
Scalia.
I think
Scalia,
Scalise would be a better speaker, in my opinion, but I think it'll be Jordan. And Jordan is going to hold the line on the budget. I can tell you that. He doesn't strike me as the one that's going to give anything. He's going to fight. He's going to shut it down, as far as I'm concerned. He's going to shut down the economy. Or
they're going to have to start from. They're going to have to start from scratch.
They call that pork out.
Yeah, he's going to hold the line. He's not going to give in to that, because he's not going to give in to Ukraine, because that's going to be the big stumbling block, right? They want to keep giving money to Ukraine.
Yeah.
For a war that, let's just admit it, guys, that's our war. We're fighting the Russians.
It's proxy war. It is a proxy war, and until people are honest about it, we're going to get into another Afghanistan before it's over.
Yeah, and we're going to have troops on the ground, right? For something that I don't think we should have troops on the ground.
I don't think so either.
And people keep forgetting that, like, Putin doesn't give a rat's ass about shit. I mean, he's about to die anyway, so he doesn't care, right? He doesn't really care. He'll push the button any day. He doesn't care, right? What are we gonna do? By the time we do anything, it'll be too late. It'll be too late.
Well, that's why we need to be ever vigilant on this thing, and we need to recognize the fact that this thing in Ukraine, this is a quandary. But we also know that this is how we've always gotten into wars. And let's just talk about the war. This is different. This is different than World War I and World War II.
It's like
this is like Vietnam.
Yeah.
This is like Korea. This is like Iraq and Afghanistan. And what do we have now? Now we have a huge influx of troops that are sick, that are dying, that have been killed. I mean, we lost in Afghanistan in 20 years. You know what I don't understand? Maybe educate me on this. I don't understand why we watched the Soviets do it in the 1980s, and we thought we could do it better.
Yeah, they were in their 10 years, and we were in their 20.
Donald Trump, but under Donald Trump, we would have left differently than we left under Joe Biden.
Oh yeah. I mean, you got to look at, the current leadership, how they do things, right? I mean, sometimes, and it's sad to see, the president can't speak. You can't even understand what he's saying half the time, right? He's always stuttering, stammering. If it's not in front of him, God forbid you want him to speak from the cuff. I don't think you want to do that.
That's done. That's why there's no debates.
And today he didn't even know. Today he didn't even know what his policy was. His administration ordered the building of another, 25 miles of the wall?
Right.
Yeah.
And then when they said, he said, my hands are tied. See, Donald Trump would never say his hands are tied. Never.
Yeah.
Well, any good leader would never say that. Even if
but then the reporter
knows your hands are tied. Any good leader would never say.
And then the reporter says, "But do you think the wall works?" And he said, "No, the wall doesn't work." Well, then why are you building it?
Because
you got supplies down there.
Because Kennedy told him to.
That's right.
Kennedy told him to. When we were speaking last night, listening to all the speakers, one thing, the theme that everybody really had in common is the fact that if this election, if we don't win it, at the state level, we're kind of screwed, right? Because if we can't beat the Republicans now with everything that's going on, I mean the Democrats now, we'll never win. There's no way. There's no freaking way.
It's absolutely true. You got to start from the ground up.
And I believe that. I think there's hope. And to me, the hope is the women. Listening to them talk last night, I'm like, God damn, those are badass moms, right? They're mama bears. They're gonna hurt somebody, right? And I was super impressed to be around them. I'm like, I wish more dads were there, but I know some of them weren't. But mamas were there, and they were fighting last night. So
yeah,
and it's good to see that. It's good to see engagement like that, even though it was late at night. We didn't get done till 10 o'clock, I think, last night. They stayed to the end, making sure they met the candidates, making sure they questioned the candidates about what they believed in, which is super impressive, right? Ask questions. You need to know who the hell I am.
Sure.
And what I'm about, not what I'm telling you. Ask me questions, common sense questions.
A lot more than the president.
Yeah. I mean, that guy, think about it. Whoever has their hand up is behind. That's who's really in charge. He's nothing. And I've said this before, I hold his wife accountable.
Oh, yeah.
If my wife let me go out like that at night, I would be so mad at her. You let me do that? Are you crazy?
Well, that's what they said. She sits in all the meetings and protects him and kind of goes over things, and she's kind of running his show.
Not doing a good job at that, for sure.
That's what you get for being a babysitter.
Hey, you know how it goes. You definitely know how it goes.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of which, and I want to, again, disclaimer.
Okay.
I do not Tony Rodriguez on this issue, and I do not speak for Mike Riker on this issue. But I am speaking, and I talked to a couple of my Republican friends today who are on top of that LGBTQT thing.
Oh, okay.
And I told them, I said, look, I think all of us agree. Every single one of us agree when it comes to our children. We do not want that taught. That's a home issue. So be it.
Right.
But I also told some of these Republicans, these ultra conservatives, I said, look, do me a favor. Stop going out and buying them drinks, the transgender people, as a Republican. Stop buying them drinks and fucking them on Saturday and then turning around and preaching against them on Sunday. Get your shit together.
I will tell you that there's a lot of truth to that with certain people. And they pretend,
I know these people.
They pretend to be something they're not. Kind of like, when I first met the mayor of Burbank, and I've talked about him before, I didn't think he was the freak that he is. I didn't think so.
Right.
And he's a freak. And not that I care, right? What you do behind closed doors, I don't really care. But some of the postings he put on social media about kids and pedophilia, that's inappropriate as hell. Even if you're not
scary as fuck. Right? Scary as hell.
You don't do that kind of stuff. And then you don't have an event. If you want to get spanked. I don't care, right? That's your thing. But don't get spanked and then invite kids, to come to the event. That's ridiculous, right?
Well, this is Burbank. This is Burbank we're talking about.
And we're going to change Burbank because there's going to be a lot of changes in Burbank. But what bothers me more than anything is the parents that took their kids to those events. That's what bugs me the most, right? Because if I'm a parent, I might want to go see that show, but I'm not taking a child to go see a grown man get spanked.
That's an adult thing. That's like taking your kid to a strip joint.
A glory hole.
Yeah. I mean,
or that's
and I've told you guys this before. My son's bachelor party, I didn't take him to a strip bar. We went to Hooters. That's where he wanted to go. And we had wings and we hung out with his friends. We've never been to a strip bar together at all. And he's 40 and we still don't do that. So, as parents, I don't think, that's our goal, to teach our kids that we coach them and as they're growing up, and if they do it, they do it. But we don't want our kids to be sexualized at 8, at 7,
Well,
at 6.
they're gonna learn soon enough because
Right.
our kids today are growing up in an educational system that now it's a part of the curriculum. Plus, on top of that, they're bombarded with the internet. This is not how we grew up. We didn't have that. I mean, the worst we ever did was sneak a Playboy or a penthouse from our grandfathers. We didn't.
I'm gonna steal we all know what CRT is in our schools, right?
Right.
Yes, we do.
Rudy Melendez running for city council seat in Los Angeles. He calls it communist radical training.
Sounds about
I
right.
believe it.
And I'm gonna steal that.
I agree.
When he said that in his speech last night, I was like, I like that. That's exactly what it is, right?
Yep.
I absolutely agree.
We're moving so close to live in a communist country that people need to wake up and understand what's happening, right? Because if we don't stop this now, if these mama bears don't destroy what these people are doing, we're in trouble. We had a speaker last night, an assistant principal, and I won't say from what high school, come and talk to us last night. And she talked about a program that LAUSD has had since 2019. I didn't know. And I consider myself knowledgeable in a lot of things. I didn't know that at all. It's called SAGE. And what it means is social and gender equity magnet school. So if you look it up online, what they're teaching has nothing to do with English, math, science, nothing to do with that, right? We're teaching.
Now, Tony, is this a private school or a charter school or what?
It's a magnet. Magnet means charter. It's a magnet school, right? So you have to apply to it and have to get accepted. So they get extra funding, but it's been around since 2019, and I didn't even know, right? But they're not.
I never heard of it before.
Basics. I posted it today on my Facebook page. Click on the link. Check it out. And
I did check it out.
No math, no science, nothing, right? So while China is teaching their kids math, science, we're teaching our kids, oh, you know what? You're possibly, you might have a gender identity, or you might want to get your genitals cut off instead of teaching them what they need to really learn, right? We got states like Oregon who have done away with math, English, and science as requirements to graduate from high school. What the hell is going to come out of those kids when they get out there in the real world? Right?
Yeah, you know what? Before we allow that to happen, those 8 Republicans that threw McCarthy out, we should cut their genitals off in the next election.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I know most people that I've spoken to about this are pro what happened, right? Because they're dead set on cutting the deficit, and I understand that part of it, right? Let's be realistic. We're not going to fix the budget this quickly. It's not going to happen. I don't care what you cut. We're too much in debt, right?
Yeah.
You got to start cutting programs that we have, as slow. Again, we don't need to give Ukraine $223 million a day. That's ignorant. We don't need to do that, right?
Put it back in the treasury.
Right. If you want to
reappropriate it.
We have kids in the streets. We got people living in trash cans and blankets in the street, right? And we're not trying to help them. Look at Maui. What have we done for Maui? Right?
Yeah.
Not much, right? We haven't done much for Maui. People are still homeless. FEMA's taking their sweet time getting shit done. You don't hear anybody talking about that kind of stuff, right? But we want to give money.
Go
ahead, Will.
Goes back to what you said last week. You and Mike both. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help.
Yeah.
Well, your buddy Ronald Reagan had a great quote for that, right?
Yeah. The 9 most terrifying words.
Yep.
That's the quote.
From the government, I'm here to help.
That's the quote.
Yep.
Yeah. By the way, we want to give a shout out to our friend Al, who decided it was more it was more feasible to go to a circus tonight than to join our circus. So that's okay.
Well, you might have hitchhiked.
We're out. We got enough elephants on this show. We're just out one monkey.
Oh, well,
We love you, Al.
He's going
Love you, buddy.
He's slowly turning. I'm glad you brought that up. I went to a chamber event yesterday morning for breakfast, and we got news that the Los Angeles Rams are moving their practice facility to Woodland Hills.
That's right. Great picture
from
too.
Thousand Oaks, which is a big deal. I mean, I'm not a Rams fan myself, but it's a big deal because it's going to bring in business to the Woodland Hills area.
Sure.
And the restaurants are going to prosper because those guys spend a lot of money, and it's going to be as soon as next season that they're going to move in there, and it's a pretty huge site. They're going to build 2 football practice fields, the gym. They already have the building already set up, and I'm bringing that up to bring up this point. If you're going to do construction in California, it takes years to get anything accomplished, right? You can't build stuff like this in California. This is going up in a year. Permits have been expedited. This is what the mighty does with politicians, right? Because if I wanted to build an ADU in my house, it's going to take me a year. An ADU, which is maybe 600 square feet, maybe 700 square feet, in my property, it's going to take them almost 2 years to approve me to build it, and they can build.
Are we sure? Are we sure Trump didn't buy the Rams?
No, Kroenke's not selling the Rams.
Oh yeah.
not even a Trump. Not even a Trump.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show you what money does, right? Money, if you have it, you can do whatever you want. You can step on whoever you want. Yeah, it's a good thing for that community. They're going to have business and jobs coming in. That's great. But it just shows you an example of what happens when you have money versus when you don't have money, or you don't have the influence to make things happen, right? Kind of like the bullet train. A couple of days ago, I posted something about the bullet train. I didn't realize it started in the late 90s when they first proposed.
Oh, yeah.
$30 billion, and here we are over $130 billion later, and it's still not. They're only going to be able to build 127 miles of it versus I think it was like 500 miles, and it's still going to be. I don't even think I'll see it in my lifetime by the time that train gets built.
And still, no, you're not going to. And still, they can't solve the homeless crisis.
Well, they don't want to. They don't want to. That's what it really is. They don't really want to.
And they were mentioning it in New York today. They said most of these people that have come up over the border are from warmer climates. And they said when the winter hits out here and you got all these people on the street, you're going to have people dying on the streets.
You know, I go back.
It's wrong. And look, border control is a human rights issue. And I know I see some asshats on Facebook that say, oh, all lives matter, open the border. Are you shitting me? What kind of mentality is that? You don't even know how to pay for it.
Yeah,
and these cities like New York and Chicago. I mean, who would think Chicago was dealing with the border crisis?
Yeah.
Well,
but they are.
You have all these intelligent people in social media that like to post their opinions on things,
right?
When they don't know anything about what's going on, right?
But it's only common sense, though. I mean, if you open your door, if you open your front door, yeah,
there you go again.
If you open your front door to everybody in the neighborhood, you overrun, and you're not going to have the ability to help them.
But like you said, common sense, right? I don't think we're lacking common sense. I think, again, it goes back to it doesn't affect me, so I don't really care, right?
Right.
Until, just like crime, right? Crime is bananas here, right? It is crazy in LA County. If you haven't been hit by a crime, you probably don't care, right? Because it hasn't happened to you. But the minute it happens to you, then you're going to scream and holler, how come I don't have law enforcement? How come I don't have this? How come 911 didn't answer the phone? Well, you didn't care before, but now you care because it's happening to you, right?
And
Kind
it
of like
makes
kids,
the
right?
and it makes the defund the police movement look like idiots, by the way.
Well, back to the homeless. And you guys know I was in the Army. They used to use the armories to house them in the winter in California. Right? Those properties are owned by the state most of the time. Sometimes the federal government owns the property, and or parks, Rex and Parks owns them. And we used to pay $1 a month rent, right, as an organization to the city. Then they kicked us out because they were going to develop that particular armory, and it's in Los Angeles. It's right off the 110 freeway. They kicked us out. They said we're not going to let the military use it anymore. We're going to build a daycare center. That was in 1999. It's still boarded up. Nothing. They did nothing to it. They could have at least used it to put beds in there for the homeless, like we used to do, right? We used to house them in the winter so they wouldn't freeze out there at night.
Yeah.
But we didn't. We stopped doing that. I don't know why we stopped doing it. I asked Laura Friedman that question. She couldn't answer the question. Her answer to me was, well, maybe because the property belonged to Parks and Recs and Parks, or it belonged to the federal government. I'm like, well, if it belonged to Recs and Parks, or Parks and Recs, whatever you want to call it, that's still government property.
Right.
Yeah.
And if they're not going to use it, why not house them or keep them off the streets, right?
Well,
You know how,
yeah, go ahead, Tony. I'm sorry.
go ahead. No, it just drives me nuts that there's always a
To
reason
say,
why.
all these ships that we have in dry dock from Norfolk all the way to San Diego, use that as homeless refuge because they're not going back out to sea anytime soon.
Well, I wouldn't use the ships for homeless, but maybe the Mercy Hospital ships, that one I would.
They've got a facility. I think they were saying in California that for ICE, and it fits 2,000 people. And you know how many people are in there now?
How many?
8.
You know, it's ridiculous. I know we have that hotel program here in California and LA, but you know, you have to address the core issue, and the government keeps saying homelessness, and they talk a lot about mental issues, but they're not addressing any of that, right? They're just not. And if you don't address the core issue of what's going on, because everybody has a different issue, right? Not everybody's homeless because they want to be homeless. Some people are homeless because they lost their job. Well, let's help them out, right? Hey, you know what? You're going to do community service, and I'm going to give you, $20 an hour, 10, whatever, right? To help you get going, right? Make them do something. I think a lot of them want to do something, but they're embarrassed, or nobody really wants to help them, right? The solution is not, hey, I'm going to put you in a shelter. That's not the solution. What's wrong with Johnny? Let's figure out what's wrong with Johnny first, right? And if he's got a mental,
they don't have the capability of doing that.
Well, but they can. But they can if they want to. I think they can.
If they could, you're right.
I think they can if they truly want to help. But it's all rhetoric, right? They all just run their mouth. It's all rhetoric. They really don't want to help homeless, right? Because if you did, you would try to help. You really help them. So, Susie, what's wrong? You have a drug issue? Let's bring her in. I joke around the other day in a staff meeting at work. I was taking the morning off, and I said, "Hey, I got to go see my psychiatrist before they do a 5150 on me and lock me up, right? With 3 days, right?" and I truly mean that, right? Sometimes we should do things like that to help these people, to find out first if it's a mental issue or it's just laziness. Is it a drug issue? Let's find out what's wrong with them so we can try to help. And instead of sending $223 million a day to Ukraine, maybe we could use that money here to help some of these people.
Definitely.
Maybe, just maybe, that would be a good change of plan. I agree.
And I think, and I said this last night to a few assembly people that were at the meeting. I'm like, hey guys, we need to stick together, and we need to make sure that the people know what's going on. We can't play the same game that politicians play with us, that They come to our parades, shake our hands, and then they leave. And then we hug them and kiss them like people in my neighborhood did with Adam Schiff. They couldn't stand the guy, but he was at our parade. So let's hug him and shake hands and take pictures, right? We need to stop that. That's nonsense. If they're not doing their job, kind of like any organization, if you're not doing your job, hey, man, we're going to fire your ass.
Yep.
We're over this. But we don't do that.
If we did that, if we took your idea that you just stated, and we did that with Congress, we would solve our problem.
Well, absolutely. I think, I know they have a 2-year term, and I know there's rules about voting people out. But to me, if you don't see worth in the first 2 years, it's time for them to go.
Yep.
If they can't start something in 2 years, I know they can't solve everything, but if they don't get moving on certain things in the first 2 years, they got to go. We don't need them, right? And I said this last night. I think there should be town halls every quarter by the leadership to the people, and if he or she can't,
anytime you're back in your district, you should be holding a town hall.
And if you can't have a town hall, then you can Zoom in. Everybody's Zooming nowadays. And if you can't Zoom in, then you can have a staff member out there in every freaking neighborhood council meeting, finding out what's going on and then briefing you, so that you have an idea what's important to your citizens instead of this game we play, right? Because obviously it's voting season, so they're going to come out in droves now. Hey, hi, I'm back.
Of course.
I'm back in the neighborhood. What do you need?
Yeah, we haven't heard from you in 2 years. But now you're back.
Yeah.
Not care what we think.
It's just sad that that's what it is. I think sometimes elected officials get detached from their original campaign, right? Because they get up there and they're afraid for whatever reason to do or say things or to come out publicly and attack somebody. Well, I will tell you this. When I get elected, my first target is going to be Wiener. I'm going to go after him, and not the way he likes, because he's the reason that we have all these rules in California and all these bills that affect our kids. And I'm going to make sure that everybody knows that. I'm going to ensure that everybody knows that it's him. I don't need people to look. I'll give them the link to show that he's the one that's doing this nonsense, because he's got aspirations.
You should hold a re-election. You should hold a re-election fundraiser. Mention Anthony Weiner, and serve hot dogs.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? What do you think about your new senator, who Gavin just appointed, who lives in the state of Maryland and been here since 2021 with her girlfriend and the daughter, and just registered as a California voter?
Right. Well,
welcome to California, Mike.
Welcome to Maryland.
What's amazing to me is that a lot of people are okay with it, right? It's okay. It's okay to do that. The one good thing is I'm pretty sure it pissed off Barbara Lee.
Oh, no doubt.
And that's a good thing.
Barbara Lee was more qualified, by the way.
I have to agree. To agree. I think he did that because I know that this person from Maryland is connected to Kamala Harris.
She is.
Yeah, and I think he wants to get rid of that Kamala Harris thing. And by bringing her and making her a senator here, now she owes her loyalty to Newsom, the Klan leader, Newsom. So he's a smart dude. He knew what he was doing. And now the problem is going to be the voting is going to be from the Democrat side for senator is going to be totally. You got Miss Porter running, Adam Schiff running, and then you got Barbara Lee running,
right.
And now you're going to have this wonderful person from Maryland running, right?
Right.
Four strong Democrats are going to run against each other with. Unfortunately, we have Eric Early, who's a good dude, but I don't think he's loud enough to win that race. So you're going to have probably Barbara Lee against, I'm going to say Porter, probably on the runoff. I'm hoping anyway.
Yeah, I'm hoping this one gets bounced.
I think she will, because like Californians don't really know her. They know Barbara Lee and they know Miss Porter.
Right.
I think she's a placeholder. I don't think she's going to run in 24.
I think she will, though. I think she's going to. I think it's all part of
She
this
might.
plan.
She might. I've seen it happen before. So you're right. It could happen.
But it's going to steal votes from everybody, and you know, again, I think Eric Early needs to be a little louder. Being an attorney, you would think he'd be louder because he is a good guy. He's really a good guy, but nobody really knows him. You know, he ran twice against Adam Schiff. He didn't even come close.
Well, just remind Eric that he is in a court. He's in a courtroom, but it's the courtroom of public opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
This is what Trump does so well. Trump is his own best lawyer.
No,
and PR
right.
guy, by the way.
I think sometimes we want to be, I don't want to say pussyfoot around. We try to be so politically correct about how we feel about things that I think it's time the American people know who we really are. Right. And sometimes you have to say, I don't give a rat's ass. And sometimes you have to say, we have to fight, and say it with emotion, not we have to fight. You know, I was impressed with the moms because they're freaking loud. You know, and that's what we need. We need people to be loud. Manute, the guy that spoke, will leave our kids alone. Very loud dude. Armenian guy, very powerful voice, right? That's what we need. We need people with powerful voices so that people listen. Because if you don't talk loud or with what am I looking for?
Clear, concise voices.
Yeah, we'll use that. They're not going to listen because they truly sometimes don't really know what's really going on.
Exactly.
Right? They just don't know. And if you're soft and nice and gentle, maybe that's not the way to get the message across to them. I always relate it back to in my work, right? Some people like text messaging, some people like phone calls, some people like emails, right? I'm not a big text message guy, and I tell the staff all the time, if you want,
I am voice to voice too. I agree with you, Tony.
I'm like, if you text me, I'll look at it, but there's a good chance I won't look at it right away. If you call me, I'll probably answer the phone right away. Right? We have some employees that they love to be text message, right? We know some we have to call. We know some will email because they're not going to answer the phone, right? So people need to, you know, these public servants that are running now, they need to figure out how the message gets across to every individual group. Some groups, like the mom groups, I think they like it loud, right? Some people, senior citizens, they don't like it so loud. They want it kind of, you know, matter of fact, easy for them to understand. None of the slideshows or computer stuff. They just want to be told, right? This is what's going on in what's happening in today's world. I sat on a table with a guy named Tony who just retired. He was a truck driver, and he retired after 34 years. He's kind of a matter-of-fact guy, right? He's not into, you know, PowerPoint presentations or Excel spreadsheets. He just wants to be told what's happening, right? He doesn't know much about politics, but he's starting to learn. He's going to these meetings, and his mind is being open on what's really happening in our country.
Right.
And I think a lot of times people are just, I don't want to say complacent. Again, it doesn't happen to them, so it's okay. Kind of like if you don't have cancer, you don't know what it's like. So your push for it is not as hard as somebody who has cancer, right? They're fighting for their life. Or if you have a disability, you know, I have a granddaughter with a disability, right? If you don't have a child with disabilities, you don't know what I go through or what her parents go through, right? So it's kind of an education thing to try to teach people that, hey, we all have issues, we all have problems, but this is what's going on in the world. And I know it doesn't affect you today, but it can affect you tomorrow. I
Exactly.
understand, right? And I think that's really the message it should be is, hey, I know it's not affecting you right now, and maybe it's not a big deal for you because all your kids are grown. But imagine when your kids have kids, do you want them to go through this kind of stuff? Do you want them to be raised in a communist way, or where they don't have rights or they can't decide what they want to do? You want some Yahoo in Washington to tell you your son or daughter is going to join the Navy and they're going to be a boilermaker for the Navy, or they're not going to be law enforcement because they took a test and we think they're a better fit to be carpenters. We don't need the government telling us what to do, when to do, or how to do anything.
I agree. Yeah, I apologize for the gaffe. I was playing with my ball, and
it's hard to believe you have a ball.
Well, maybe we'll bring you over to Washington because it's 27-3.
Oh wow, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
But Will, let's
Yeah.
talk about your buddy Trump for a minute. Your favorite.
Okay, hold on. Let me put my thinking cap on.
Your favorite.
Okay, there we go.
Why do you think there's rumors going around that they want to make him the speaker? What would that accomplish?
Maybe
He
unity.
would.
I think unity.
Go ahead.
With
Now he's not going to unite the party. He's not going to bring the moderates in. He's not going to do it. He'll do it during his presidential campaign, but he's not going to do it the way Jim Jordan could do it. And Jim Jordan, look, I'm going to predict that Donald Trump's going to endorse Jim. He's going to get himself into the mix, but I think he's going to endorse Jordan for Speaker of the House.
I just wonder who would take over Jordan's spot on the Judiciary Committee and the weaponization.
He said there are plenty of qualified. Jordan addressed that issue. He said there are plenty of qualified people. But back in the day when they were electing after the midterms, when they were electing the speaker, I kept telling you, Jordan was, and I think he was yours too.
Yes,
I wanted Jordan to be speaker from day one.
Yep.
But he had things to do. He had to put things in. And McCarthy, look, I don't give a rat's ass, as one of my great friends, that's one of his favorite quotes. I don't give a rat's ass. Tony Rodriguez, by the way. I don't give a rat's ass how he had to do it or how they had to do it. But now is the time to unify the party. Trump is not going to do that as speaker. It's unprecedented. I mean, anything can happen. I've learned that the hard way. But it would be the wrong thing to do. It will deflect from his presidential campaign. And then you might as well just give the nomination to Ron DeSantis. I don't think it's a good thing.
Nikki Haley has now passed Ron DeSantis.
Yes, she has.
On the polls.
In New Hampshire. Well, because DeSantis is spending too much time in Iowa. Do you know how many Republicans and Democrats have won Iowa and then never gone on to win another primary?
It goes back to what we always talk about, right? It's who you surround yourself with.
Right.
I when I spoke last night, I talked about what's happening in our country as a military operation, right? And I said that for a reason, because now we have a general in David Hernandez sitting at the LA County GOP as a vice chair. So now we have some input, right? Now his field generals, which are the people who will be running for office, they're the ones that are going to be telling him, hey, this is what really is going on. This is what I think we need, so that he can make the right moves at his level. And it's truly a combat operation. What's happening now, we have to treat it as a combat operation. Everybody has to work together so that we know exactly what's going on the ground. Touchdown. So it just kind of that's the way I look at the elections that are upcoming. It is a total combat operation.
Well, the other thing too, Tony, that I think we need to, before you close your show, the other thing we need to realize, is that we need to get over the past. And Republicans are going to have to make a decision. They're going to have to realize that this is no longer the party of Dwight Eisenhower and Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan and Gerald Ford and the Bushes. This is a party that is literally redefined as the party of Donald Trump. And until they recognize that, I mean, look, Abraham Lincoln went through the same thing, and he was the first Republican elected. In order to win re-election, he had to pick a Democrat as his running mate, a Union Democrat, Andrew Johnson. So this is not the first time, but we have to also recognize that we are in a socio-cultural civil war in this country. And until we realize that, until the Republican Party realizes that, well, if the U.S. House is going to be impotent, or they're going to elect a Democratic speaker, and then we're really screwed.
Yeah, and all the other countries outside of the U.S. see this, and they're just laughing at us.
Yep. Exactly. We are the laughing stock of the globe. Well said, Mike.
And that's the problem, right? That people in office, they truly don't care about the people. They just don't. They just don't.
No.
It's like a father or a mother abandoning their family for somebody else that looks pretty, right? It looks a little green because the grass was sprayed, and then when you get there, that motherfucker's brown.
That's right.
Right?
That's
and I think people forget that, and maybe because they're so busy, right? And I get this, that you're busy, and you have a job, and you don't get home till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. But I truly believe this, right? If we take care of the families, daddy doesn't have to work till 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and that will solve that problem. And they'll be able to live with the money they make, right? Because if we start focusing on the family unit, it'll force us to fix everything else for them. So they have to spend what I had to spend for Monday, $130 to fill up my SUV, right? You can, if we cut down on some of these taxes that we get taxed. I put a posting in Mojave. I think gas is $7 something a gallon.
Wow.
And then 2 miles down the road in Arizona at the border, it's only $4.79, right? That's how much taxes we're paying in California.
Mine was $3.26 today.
Oh God, don't even tell me. But that's the point.
I know.
I don't understand why people don't go to their assembly person and say, "Hey, you need to argue for me. I don't care that you're a Democrat or a Republican. This is affecting my livelihood."
Right.
Well, you guys need to help.
This is a good point. This is a good point. But the American people, the people in our communities, the families in our communities, they need to be engaged in the process. Because otherwise, this is the kind of government you get.
Right.
I don't know what else to tell them.
And you're right. And when I spoke last night, I said, I want to be your assembly person for you, and I want to be there to fight for you, but I can't fight alone. If you don't tell me, right?
Well said, yeah.
If you don't tell me what's happening at your level, I don't know.
Right.
And you owe it to me to tell me, hey, Tony, I need you to do this for me. And then I owe it to you to make it happen. Right. That's the way it's
well said. Exactly.
Right. And then I can hold other people above me accountable. Hey, Governor, you need to fix this crap. And we need to get over this nonsense that we got to be green by this time, because we're not going to be green by 2035. We don't even have the infrastructure to go do anything anymore. Right?
We don't.
It takes me an hour and 47 minutes to go 32 miles every morning on a good day, right? That tells me that our infrastructure sucks ass. Right? If we can't get 30 miles in, it takes me an hour 42 minutes. That's ridiculous every day.
Yep.
That's on a good day, right? If there's an accident, it'll take me 2 hours to get here. If I get a flat, it'll take me 3 hours to get here, right? Because we just don't. we don't use common sense on helping the American people or the people of the California Republic. We don't do anything that is in their best interest. Everything is in the best interest of the elected officials.
Right.
And again, I'll tell you, everybody out there, these are public servants. Don't call them politicians. If you're calling them politicians, you voted for the wrong person because he's a piece of crap, right? Or she's worthless. So let's start choosing.
You're absolutely right.
Let's start choosing people that are going to be there for us, not them. They're going to be there for our families, not them.
Right.
When they become public officials, their job is to take care of us, not themselves.
People over politics, not
Right.
politics over people.
And we need to spread that message, everybody. Let's stop playing around.
Well said, Mike.
Let's start playing around. Let's vote for the right candidates. It doesn't matter what party you belong to. If you want to do what's best for your community, then just do it. Don't worry about the politics involved in that, because that's the problem. Guys, it's 7:00. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Mikey Mike.
Al, we missed you. Just so you know,
Al,
we missed you.
I hope you enjoyed the circus, Al. Steamboat Willie, thank you for being here as usual. Listen out there. If you want somebody to make a difference, vote for Tony Rodriguez for California District Assembly 44. My cities include Burbank. Definitely Burbank. We need to make a change. Burbank, Glendale, La Crescenta, Montrose, Sunland, Tahunga, Shadow Hills, Lakeview Terrace, Valley Village. Those are all my cities. So if you live in those cities, you need to vote for Tony Rodriguez in the upcoming primary. You can reach me at my website.
And your website is what?
Tony, the number 4, California.us. I'm the guy with the hat on the website. You better look me up and learn all about me. If not, you're going to lose out on a good public servant.
That's
Thank
true.
you. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Good luck. Talk to you guys next week. Good night, everybody.